These are 31,795 products competing for your attention in the average grocery store. But thousands more are fighting a hidden battle just to earn the right to sit on those shelves. What you see when you walk down the aisles represents the winners of an economic war most shoppers never realize is happening. Every week, your local supermarket generates over $600,000 in sales. But here is what might surprise you. Grocery stores often make more money deciding what to sell than actually selling it. Welcome to the invisible economics of shelf space, where demand does not guarantee availability, and the products you cannot find are not missing by accident. Let's start with a number that explains everything. Grocery stores operate on profit margins between 1% and 3%. In 2023, that margin hit just 1.6%, which means for every $100 you spend, the store keeps less than $2. As Villanova economics professor Peter Zaleski puts it, sure, we are only making 1% profit, but it is worth our while to be in this business because we make it up in volume. Those razor-thin margins create a fundamental problem, though. Grocery stores cannot afford to experiment. They cannot take risks on unproven products, and they definitely cannot give shelf space to something that might not sell, because every square inch of that space needs to generate profit. That's where the hidden economy begins. Picture the last time you wandered through a grocery store looking for something specific that you knew existed but couldn't find anywhere. Maybe it was a particular brand of hot sauce you'd heard about, or a specialty pasta that your friend recommended. You probably assumed the store just didn't know there was demand for it. The reality is way more complex and calculated than that. Shelf space operates as a zero-sum game. The average grocery store has shrunk from carrying 51,000 products in 2008 to just under 32,000 products today. Meanwhile, food manufacturers launch over 30,000 new products every single year. The math is brutal and simple. For every new product that earns a spot on the shelf, something else has to go. This creates what the industry calls slotting fees, though that clinical term barely captures what's actually happening. When a manufacturer wants to introduce a new product, they don't just present it to the grocery store and hope for the best. They pay for the privilege. These fees range from $250 to $1,000 per product per store. But that's just the starting point. For a truly new product launching regionally, that fee might reach $25,000 per item across a cluster of stores. In high-demand markets, it can hit $250,000. If you wanted to launch a simple 4-item product line in every supermarket nationwide, industry experts estimate it would cost $16.8 million just in slotting fees. You haven't sold a single unit yet, and you're already millions in the hole. One industry professor estimates that 60 to 70% of grocery store profits come from these fees, rather than from actually selling groceries. Think about that for a moment. The supermarket makes more money when they buy food from manufacturers than when they sell food to you. This system creates obvious winners and losers. Large manufacturers like Kraft Heinz, General Mills, and Coca-Cola can afford these fees because they build them into their product development budgets. Small manufacturers, startup brands, and regional producers often can't compete. John Gordon, who tried to build Clemmie's ice cream into a national brand, described the reality bluntly. Between slotting fees and the category captain system, those two things alone make it almost impossible for a smaller manufacturer to make it. The category captain system represents another layer of this hidden economy. Rather than hire their own experts to decide how to arrange products within each category, grocery stores often designate the largest manufacturer in each category as the captain. That captain then makes recommendations about which products should get shelf space, where they should be positioned, and how much space each should receive. The conflict of interest is obvious. A condiment category captain employed by Kraft will likely assign better shelf position to Kraft ketchup than to competitors' versions, regardless of which would generate more sales for the retailer. The captain literally decides whether their competitors get shelf space at all. This system reached its legal breaking point in a case involving tobacco companies. The Supreme Court upheld a $350 million judgment against United States Tobacco Company for allegedly using its category captain position to keep competitors' products out of stores entirely. The final judgment, including damages, reached over $1 billion. But the FEs don't stop at slotting. There are pay-to-stay fees during category reviews, where manufacturers essentially pay ransom to prevent their existing products from being removed. There are fees for end-of-aisle displays, fees for eye-level placement, fees for special positioning. The grocery store has monetized every aspect of visibility and access. For shoppers, this creates some counterintuitive realities. That product you're looking for might have genuine consumer demand. People might be actively searching for it, posting about it on social media, recommending it to friends. But if the manufacturer can't afford the fees, or if a category captain sees it as a threat, it simply won't appear on shelves. The failure rates reflect this harsh economics. Between 70 and 90% of new consumer packaged goods fail within their first year. Harvard Business School's Clayton Christensen notes that more than 30,000 new consumer products launch annually, and 80% of them fail. But this isn't natural selection based purely on consumer preference. It's artificial selection based on who can pay for access. Consider what happened when Walmart tried to address customer complaints about cluttered stores. In 2008, responding to customer feedback, they removed 15% of their products to create a cleaner shopping experience. Sales declined so significantly that they had to reverse most of the changes. Customers said they wanted fewer choices, but their buying behavior revealed they actually wanted their specific choices to be available. This highlights a fundamental tension in the grocery business. The average household only purchases a few hundred different items from a supermarket in a year, but those few hundred items vary dramatically from household to household. What seems like overwhelming choice to one shopper represents essential variety to another. The system has started evolving in response to social media and changing consumer behavior. Brands that generate significant buzz on platforms like TikTok can sometimes bypass traditional slotting fees entirely. Olipop, the prebiotic soda that gained massive traction among millennials and Gen Z online, used their social media momentum to pitch directly to major chains like Kroger and Walmart. They're now in 30,000 stores nationwide, having leveraged consumer enthusiasm to negotiate shelf space without the typical fees. Some retailers have begun waiving slotting fees from smaller startup brands specifically to attract younger, higher-spending customers who seek out these innovative products. But this represents a tiny fraction of the overall market. The vast majority of shelf space still operates under the traditional fee structure. Geographic location adds another layer of complexity. What appears on shelves varies not just by chain, but by individual store location. Stores in affluent areas might carry specialty or organic products that stores in lower income areas skip entirely. Stores in areas with large Hispanic populations might dedicate more shelf space to Mexican and Central American products. These decisions aren't just based on demographics. They're based on calculations about which products will generate enough sales to justify their shelf space costs. The rise of private label products represents another challenge for branded manufacturers. Store brands like Kirkland Signature, Great Value, and 365 don't pay slotting fees to appear on shelves because the retailer controls both the manufacturing relationship and the shelf space. As private label quality has improved and consumer acceptance has grown, these products capture an increasing share of shelf space that would otherwise go to branded alternatives. Technology is beginning to reshape some of these dynamics. Artificial intelligence helps stores better predict which products will succeed in specific locations, potentially reducing the risk of carrying new items. Electronic shelf labels allow for more dynamic pricing and positioning. But the fundamental economics of limited shelf space and high failure rates remain unchanged. The consolidation of both grocery retail and food manufacturing has intensified these pressures. A handful of major retailers control enormous portions of the market, giving them increased leverage over manufacturers. Similarly, large food companies can more easily absorb slotting fees and cross-subsidize new product launches with profits from established brands. For many small food companies, the business model has shifted entirely. Rather than trying to build independent national brands, many entrepreneurs now design their companies specifically to be acquired by larger manufacturers who can afford nationwide distribution. Claire Kellaway, a food industry expert, explains, "Most new food businesses, they really are just hoping to get acquired, because that's how you're going to get your product the best shelf placement." This acquisition trend explains some of the apparent contradiction in grocery stores. You might notice that new products often come from familiar parent companies. That artisanal-looking pasta sauce might be owned by Campbell's, and that craft-style snack could be a General Mills product. The startup energy and innovation comes from small companies, but the distribution power comes from large corporations willing to pay for shelf access. Understanding these hidden economics changes how you might think about shopping. When you can't find a product you're looking for, it's rarely because the store doesn't know it exists or doesn't understand there's demand for it. Someone made a calculated decision that the product couldn't generate enough profit to justify its shelf space, or its manufacturer couldn't afford the fees required to secure that space. The products you see represent not just what consumers want, but what manufacturers could afford to offer. The missing products aren't absent by oversight. They're casualties of an economic system where access to consumers requires substantial upfront investment, and where established players maintain structural advantages that extend far beyond the quality of their products. Next time you walk through your grocery store, look at the shelves differently. Every product you see fought an expensive battle to be there. Every empty space represents a decision that something else would be more profitable. And every brand you don't recognize that somehow managed to secure shelf space either paid significantly for the privilege or found a clever way around the traditional system. The grocery store isn't just a place where supply meets demand. It's a carefully curated marketplace where access is purchased, position is negotiated, and your choices as a consumer are shaped by economic forces that remain largely invisible until you understand how the system really works.